Hey, hi, hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jess, and we're gonna talk about books that most people seem to love and I seem to hate. And I say hate, obviously, to get you to watch this video, and some I truly am very angry about. Every few months, I remember how enraged I was when reading it, or like the rage is almost like such a potent disappointment that I'm just so mad. And then other ones like I just didn't like, were bored, some I finished, some I DNF'd. So just basically popular books that everyone raves about, and I'm like, really though? And we're back in this area because I want to. Now some of these, it could have been my fault because I went into them maybe with the wrong thought, but still, I've done that with other books and they've still delivered because I thought they were great books. So the first one, and so a lot of these I read before I was on BookTube. So it may not be a super BookTube popular thing, but I remember them seeing them everywhere, at least people reading it on Goodreads and on Bookstagram. So the first one is Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman. I mean, I saw this book everywhere. Was it a Reese Club pick or something? I feel like it was like a book club pick. It has 873,000 ratings on Goodreads with an average of 4.27. I thought this book was so dull. I gave it 2 stars. I really thought maybe it's because I went in thinking it was going to be a romance and it really wasn't. It's more like a literary fiction story. And Eleanor is like different. She's like kind of awkward. I don't remember if she had like social anxiety, but she definitely she struggles with like social skills and she's just like getting by. But there's also this part of it where you're unsure, or you find, that would be a spoiler, but at the end you find out like this kind of twist that I was like, oh, it just was boring. Like it just went through her everyday life doing plain things, talking to her mother, talking to this guy at work, and it was just so dry. But I just kept hearing people being like, oh my God, it's so riveting and so heartbreaking and amazing story. I'm so moved, I can't breathe. And I'm like, from what? I don't know. It wasn't for me. Eleanor Oliphant was completely boring is what I would have titled it, but hey, everything is not for everybody. Another one, so The Flat Share by Beth O'Leary. I think I've talked about this one before. It has 179,000 ratings, so not as much as Eleanor Oliphant, but still has a 4.09 overall rating, which is really high. I DNF'd this book because I said I can't take how the male protagonist POV is written. I can't even remember his name, but the author does not use complete sentences in his POV, and it drove me nuts. No thank you. It is so like, I can't do that. It was very her point of view because there's 2 people who are sharing this flat. They work different shifts, and I was like, oh, is this going to be a romance? And her point of view was perfectly normal. I'm like, okay, but then his point of view would come in and it was so choppy and like not complete thoughts, like I said, not complete sentences, and I could not stand it, so I DNF'd it. I don't even know how much I got through. I didn't put the percentage, but this does say contemporary romance. Maybe I didn't get far enough to be feeling the romance vibe, but I just like could not be inside his head because of how she wrote it. So I was like, kick rocks, no thank you. And I know she's had some other books come out and this is so shallow, but the covers are so cute. But I've been tainted by that one experience, and I don't know if I want to give any of her other books a try. If you think I should, let me know. But The Flat Share, if she continues to write like she wrote that male POV, I don't want any part of it. No thank you. Another really popular one that I still hear people talk about is Beartown by Frederick Bachman. Everyone is like, oh my God, it's such a heartbreaking story. It's so amazingly written. So this one has 257,133 ratings on overall 4.26. And so it is translated from Swedish, I think. I made it about halfway through this book before I DNF'd it. So the story centers around a hockey town, I think in Sweden, and essentially one of the star players rapes a girl, and the town becomes divided because they're really about hockey. So it's like half the people believing in him or not even caring just because they want him to stay on the team, let's be honest, and the other half of the town who believes the girl. It could be less than half, I'm not sure. And I was like expecting a super emotional, like really engaging, connecting read. And I said maybe because it was translated, it just seemed too choppy, too many POVs, and it bounced back and forth between those so rapidly I couldn't form a connection with anyone. I legit had zero feeling or reaction to the thing that happens. It just, I think it would have been stronger with limited POVs, but you're really, I think, getting a bunch of POVs of people in the town and all their different perspectives, which maybe in the end really adds to the story, but I just, yeah, I was like, I'm ready to have my heart broken. I'm ready to cry. I'm ready to be in my feelings. And I was just like, next. Bloop. I feel bad for saying that, but it didn't hit me here. I think BookTube really loves this author, and especially her second book, and now they're really excited about her newest release, but it's An Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson. So this one doesn't have as many ratings. It has 54,597, but I've seen it talked about a lot, especially on Bookstagram. It does only have a 3.65, but I put it here because of this author's growing popularity. I have not read the other one, Sorcery of Thorns, even though people said that was even better. Again, I was burned by this one because it was a standalone. I was like, yes. About Fae, I was like, yes. And it was short. I was like, okay. But it was too short, and it was the most insta-lovey thing I think I've ever read, where it was like, here's a story, 2 pages, we're in love. Maybe not 2 pages, but it was ridiculous. And it's essentially this girl, she's human, but they live, like the Fae live near them or amongst them or something. But anyway, they can't show emotion. And she's an artist. She's commissioned to paint one of the Fae. And in the picture, she paints him showing emotion. So it's like, uh-oh, she's whisked away to their fairyland. And she falls in love really quickly. And then it's like, bam, 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 bam. It's only like 200 pages. I often say most books don't need to be as long as they are, but there's also another side to that where there is such thing as too short, and I feel like it was too short. It was it says it's right at 300 pages, but I think for the actual story it was 200 something pages. It was way too short, and I guess some people like it because it's cute and whimsical and a little love story, and I guess. But honestly, it was dull, and there wasn't enough character development. There wasn't enough between the two love interests that I could actually believe in their love story. And then, yeah, it ended too quickly. So that was one I know that people still really liked, even if it doesn't have as high a rating on Goodreads, that I thought was, again, dull. Next two go out to Leanna if she's watching at Leanna's library. So Red Rising. Now this is the one I hate, but the more I hear people talk about it, the more I just like dislike it on principle of being a petty bitch. So I read Red Rising years ago. Let me tell you that I actually read it because Pierce Brown was hot. His hotness has it's gone down for me, but at the time I was like, oh my god, he's so hot, so I'm gonna read this book. So it's pitched as like the Hunger Games on Mars. I mean, kind of. So the main character, Darrow, there's basically a caste system by colors, and he's a red, I'm pretty sure, and that's like the lower class, so they do a lot of like manual labor and stuff for the golds, or this higher class. But they've been told essentially like that Mars, like all the labor they're doing is to make Mars habitable, basically, for people to come from Earth. But the truth is it has been habitable, so they've just been having them basically like slaves or indentured servants. And then there's something that kind of is a catalyst to motivate him, I guess, to try to get back at the people. But then this whole thing, right? I was like, okay, interesting. And it says it's adult. I have heard people who are fans of the series said that the first one definitely reads kind of more YA, but they get more adult. Because Red Rising didn't feel that way. The first book is only like 370 pages, but it felt so long and dense for such a short book. Like I just would read 50 pages and then felt like I had been reading all day long. Like I just didn't like the writing. Like I said, it was dense. A lot of it, I don't know, just didn't feel like it fit right. I did not like Darrow as a main character. There are other people that I did like. The one that everyone likes, that little guy, I can't remember what his name was. And like, I didn't hate it, but literally by the time I got to the end of it, I felt like I had slogged through a 1,000-page novel, and it was under 400 pages. And I'm like, this wasn't worth it. I don't care about these characters for the most part, especially Darrow and some of the twist. And some people think maybe it's too brutal or whatever. I don't care about that. Give me brutal. But it really was the writing style and the main characters. And I was like, well, if I don't like those things, this really isn't going to take me. There's no point in continuing. So I got rid of the other books. And yeah, I wish sometimes that I was in that fandom, particularly because there was a really pretty special edition set that came out. But no, I'll never say never. But for now, I'm like, no, I don't want it. And then also for Leanna, the Raven cycle. So this is an entire series, but I think the two books that offended me the most were is it the third and the fourth one? Blue Lily, Lily Blue, which is just a dumb title, Maggie, and the Raven King. I'm pretty sure. Hold on. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Those are the third and fourth. The first one was fine, and then the second one was okay. Like, it was okay. Then we get to the third one, Blue Lily, Lily Blue, which is a stupid title. I can't stand Blue Sergeant as a character because she's just a dum-dum. I don't like Gansey, and it was just, the setup of this series is promising. It's like these kids in high school, these boys who go to a really rich prep school, three of them, and then there's Adam, who's at the prep school, but he's a scholarship student, and then there's Blue, who goes to a regular school, and she lives with her mom and a bunch of her aunts in this house, and they're all like psychics and stuff. And essentially they come together somehow, and they're kind of on this journey to find something. I won't say what. And so it's to deal with like communing with the dead and ley lines and kind of like magic like that. I will agree with Leanna that it is atmospheric. There's a magical forest. It's like in rural Virginia. You really get that feel of like a small town, especially when you're at Blue's house and then when they're out in the forest. And but a lot of it is just ridiculous. Gansey is a ridiculous character. Blue is a ridiculous character. And by the time we got to the third and fourth book, I was just like, what the fuck is this? I didn't even know how to rate it. The fourth book in particular, I felt like there was so much build up for the worst ending. One of the worst endings I've ever read. I was like, are you kidding? It was just so, like, you can't say anything without spoilery, but they're like literally on a quest. And then you're like, for this is how we end it? I don't know. I don't get the love and the hype for it. It is Mag Goals, Steve Arter, whatever. Maggie has a really weird writing style. I'm not always with it. Some of her like adjectives of how she describes stuff, I'm like, ma'am, why? You're just trying to be pretentious. It's like you took out your thesaurus and you're like, let me find the most ridiculous synonym for this word, and that's what I'm gonna use. It's like when you're trying to just put big words into your paper to sound smarter. That's what her writing gives me a lot of the time. And so I'm not sorry, Leanna. They're not good. They're not good. They have decent and good parts, but overall, they're not good books. They're just not. This one is ridiculously popular, I know, on Instagram, on YouTube, just generally popular, and it's The Martian by Andy Weir. And it has 901,293 ratings with a 4.4 overall rating. That's a lot. And I see it on a lot of people's videos of like top sci-fi or favorite sci-fi books. There's only been like maybe 2 people who really didn't love this book besides me. And when I hear those people say they didn't like The Martian, I'm like, thank you, I'm not alone. But The Martian is one of those rare times I saw the adaptation first, and then I went back and read the book. It is a sci-fi novel. Matt Damon was in the movie, and essentially they go on this mission to Mars, and like something happens, there's an emergency, he gets left behind. So he's on Mars by himself, and obviously they were not planning to stay indefinitely, and so he doesn't have supplies. He's basically like, I'm gonna die here. And he starts journaling it, essentially. I think they have like, in sci-fi movies, they're always like talking to the screen, like video recording it. So he's doing like a video journal. So obviously you're reading that in the book. And then he's kind of just like, talking through like accepting his fate and then being like, no, I'm not gonna die here, and like all the things he does because he's a botanist, I'm pretty sure. I feel like he's a botanist, he's some kind of doctor, and he figures out a way to recycle his oxygen and water and grow crops and stuff. So it's basically his story of survival, and then how is he gonna stay there forever? Are they gonna be able to come back and get him? That's the story. And I love the movie. I love the movie. I love sci-fi movies, but the book to me, I don't know, was not as, the humor on page didn't come across to me. I just was like, I just didn't find it funny. There was way too much science for me in the book, also because he's going through like calculations and so like math equations and stuff on how to calculate to yield enough potatoes for all this time and all these things. And I was like, starting to skim because I'm like, I don't care. Like, explain a little bit of it. Like, I have no problem in science fiction when they break down the science basically, but like getting into equations and stuff, I was like, you're boring me. So those things just didn't work for me. So I just didn't find it as amazing as everyone did. And maybe also because I had seen the adaptation, so I knew how it was gonna go. But I just wasn't wowed, too sciencey. I did think it was funny, and I was glad when it was over. And I have not read anything else by Andy Weir because I don't want to. And after that experience, I'm like, I'm good. I got other sci-fi to read. Okay, next up is Miss Leigh Bardugo. Okay, I love Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom. We should know this. I have multiple copies of them back here. The Grisha trilogy, I feel like, is like, I don't know. I feel like most people, not all, but most people prefer the Six of Crows duology over the Shadow and Bone trilogy. So that's not an unpopular opinion, but those were just fine. However, the highlight of Shadow and Bone is Nikolai. Honestly, Nikolai Lansoff is my baby daddy, the love of my life. Where is he? I have him on a calendar. Where's my calendar? I have this calendar. He's so beautiful. It's always turned to this one. This was my favorite image of him. Nikolai. All the time, me and my friends, especially me and Kara, would be like, Nikolai deserves his own books. Nikolai deserves his own book. And then Leigh Bardugo answered our call, and she said Nikolai's getting his own book. It was titled, it's not now, the Nikolai duology, King of Scars. We're like, oh my God, we know what that means. Oh my God. Cover reveal, so happy, was so excited. Get this book, tear into it. Ma'am. I have a whole video ranting on King of Scars, and I have not read the second book, Rule of Wolves, yet because I don't expect to love it, so I haven't gotten to it, and I haven't been wanting to read fantasy. But King of Scars is supposed to be about Nikolai, but she forgot that. That book focuses more on Nina and I forgot the other girl's name, Zoya, which loved getting to know Zoya more. And I love Nina in Six of Crows, but her point of view in King of Scars did not work for me. It felt very separate, like it should have been its own story or own novella at least, because she was never in the same place as they were. She was always off somewhere else, and I could never see how their stories would connect. Like I said, the story is not primarily about Nikolai. He is in it. He does have a point of view, but we don't get as much of him as we get of the other two. And then there's another point where a fourth POV enters, which again takes away from Nikolai. And it just, some people said that he wasn't meant to be a main character. And I'm like, I don't know about that. Maybe she doesn't have the ability to write him as a main character, and she didn't. So it's just really upsetting, because I wanted to be focused on him. And there also is like this setup of this romance I really wasn't feeling. Like I said, the Nina parts, I would be at least into the story, even if it wasn't focusing on Nikolai, even if we were getting a Zoya chapter, and then it would go to Nina, who was over here, and I'd be like, ugh, so it would slow me down. So the pacing was really off to me. It's a pretty chunky book. And also, oh my God. So this is truly Shadow and Bone number 4. Leigh said you can read it as a standalone. She tried to write it so you don't have to read the other books, but I truly believe you have to read the other ones. Like, you need to read the Shadow and Bone trilogy, Six of Crows duology, and then King of Scars to really get everything, because she mentions stuff from those books, especially the Shadow and Bone trilogy. So I don't like that. It was basically Shadow and Bone number 4. I don't like the ending, and I can't say why without spoiling it, but it was lazy writing in my opinion. And I don't like how there's like this big part in the book where they meet like the saints who are part of the lore in this world, but she kind of erases the magic system she built in the first trilogy in King of Scars, and I don't like that. Like, do that in at least the first trilogy, but you had this trilogy, you set up how the magic works, you had hard limits to things, you ended that, you did another book where that magic system is still that same way, and then you get to this third series now, and now you change how the magic works if somebody just does X, Y, and Z. I don't like that if you have a hard magic system. So there are multiple reasons why I didn't love King of Scars. It felt too long, there wasn't enough Nikolai, Nina's story didn't fit, the pacing was off, she changed the magic system, the ending pissed me off. Sorry. So King of Scars, I will eventually get to Rule of Wolves. I'm not in any rush, but I mean, Nikolai will always be my favorite, and he will always deserve more than what he got. That's how I feel about that. And secondly, for Miss Bardugo is Ninth House, which so many people love. And it's people that I genuinely value their opinion on books. And they love Ninth House, and I'm like, I don't know you. Who are you? Where did you take the person who gives me reliable reviews on books? Because Ninth House was garbage. I'm sorry. It was garbage. I was so excited about Lee writing an adult novel, and it sounded like dark academia, murder mystery fantasy, and it was a mess. It was trying to be too many things. Again, it was too long, and it was very info dumpy. Ninth House, if you don't know, so it's an adult novel. It's set at Yale, which Leigh Bardugo did attend, and you can tell because she wanted you to know she went to Yale. And the main character, Alex Stern, Alex is short for Galaxy, Galaxy Stern, is the main character, and her life's a hot ass mess. She is basically a delinquent, doing drugs and all these bad things, but she can see ghosts, but in the book they're called Greys. And so there are secret societies at Yale, and they all have different jobs and different things that they're in charge of. Somehow they find out about her and her ability, and they need her because most people have to take like a special potion or something, or a pill to be able to see ghosts. And it's important to see them because sometimes they be coming and fucking with people. So it's important to see ghosts. They want her at Yale. But like I said, she's a delinquent. But they essentially give her like a chance to start anew at Yale, and in exchange for her basically working for one of the secret societies. And the highlight of this book for me was Pammy Dawes, and Darlington. But my problem is, and this is what I want to do in a separate video, is in dark academia, what I like is the actual academic part to be a part of the story, like whatever they're studying. And she goes to Yale, just not like any other college would let you off anymore, like if it wasn't a prestigious Ivy League school. But she's at Yale, and she like is doing nothing, not going to class. She's like not turning anything in. I'm like, how are you already got in here because of your ability, and now you can't even just like do the coursework? It bothered me. There was hardly any of her going to class except at random moments where it's like, oh yeah, she's supposed to be at school, so let me throw in finals here for her to go to class. Also, the setup of the storytelling didn't work for me because the first chapter starts out with something that happens towards the end of the book, so you're like, oh my god, like it's a big moment, and then you jump back in time to like a year before, and I don't always love that. And so you're trying to work up to see how she got to that moment. Alex was blah. There was nothing special about her. Her character, there also was unnecessary grossness, in my opinion, that I feel like Lee put in there because she was trying to make it so adult, but it was just gross. And people have, it's a sexual assault scene, but it just, it's not like I was like, you know, it was just like, why? And also there was another part where like, where someone eats fecal matter. Again, why? Why? Unnecessary. That is not what makes a book adult. But literally this book, I don't know how long it is, 600 pages, maybe 500 pages. It's so slow, and it's just info. Like you could if I reread the book, I could probably draw New Haven, Connecticut for you because of how much she details Yale. Like, okay, I get it. I know how it looks, girl. And then the last 100 pages is like bam, bam, bam. There's like this ridiculous villain monologue, and like the whole scene is just so redonkulous. And it goes from like this a dark academia school, ooh, what are the ghosts doing? Then there's like a whodunit mystery with like the police, but also the secret society. And then it's too much at the end of the book. And then literally the whole story could have been wrapped up. That could have been one story, one and done, until the literal last line. She's like, so you're like, fuck, now I need to read book 2 to see what happened. I don't like that. That's cheap. That's very cheap. I hate it. I hated Ninth House. Am I gonna read the next one? I don't know. I wanna know what happened to a certain character because I cared about a certain character. But I also don't want to read what is probably going to be 500 more pages than needed when it just could have been a line to say what happened to this, or like an epilogue. And it would have been fine. So I've rambled a lot on that one because I have a lot of feelings about Ninth House. I truly hated it. Truly hated it. Oh, I feel like I've been talking for a while. I have so many more, but I'll save some for another video. So I'll just give 2 more. And that one would be Final Girls by Riley Sager, who seems to be everyone's like favorite thriller writer right now. And I'm just like, I did only read Final Girls, but I was so underwhelmed that I do not care to give Riley Sager another chance. This one only has 101,000 ratings. It surprisingly is down to a 3.83. Maybe because it's his first one, but people love Riley Sager in general. And I know that different people have favorite ones because he has quite a few out, but I'm just like, they all sound whack. Final Girls was about, so like people who've survived, you know, like a massacre. I don't remember much about it except that for a thriller, it was not thrilling. It was boring. I could see every twist coming. Like there was nothing new or interesting about it, so that's why I don't understand why everyone loves this book so much. And granted, like I said, I've only read one, but I was like, the Final Girls are gonna be my first and final Riley Sager. And then add the sugar on top, Grady Hendrix came out with a book about Final Girls. It's a very common thing right now. People are very into that slasher trope because I think Stephen Graham Jones also has one. Maybe I could be incorrect, but Grady Hendrix came out recently, and little bitter bitch Riley Sager subtweeted and was like something about doing it first or copying somebody, like subtweeted literally on the day Grady Hendrix book was released. And I don't know, that just rubbed me the wrong way, and I was like, I already didn't like your raggedy ass book, but I definitely am not gonna read any more of your books, and I will be reading Grady Hendrix because you petty, you could have kept your mouth closed. Like, that's something you send to your group chat, you big dummy. So that just made me mad. That made me mad. But I had already written him off after reading this book a couple years ago. So I'm just like, good, I don't have time for you anyway. And lastly, in this video, since this is already too long, I will say, I feel like this is one of the most egregious that people are going to be upset about. And it's The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. This one, I mean, is also having a resurgence because of book talk. This is the one everyone's like, oh my god, I cried so hard, it destroyed me. It has 456,455 ratings on Goodreads and a 4.41 overall rating. Like, people love this book. Like, it's the sweetest, best retelling story ever of my life. And it is a retelling? A reimagining of Achilles and Patroclus? Look, I am not a Greek scholar, okay? This book was dull. I bought the physical copy, which I remember being mad that this paperback was $18, but I bought it from Barnes & Noble. I don't have it anymore, but I was mad that it was $18 for a paperback because everyone had been screaming about it. Like, oh my God, get a box of tissues. You're not gonna be able to make it through without crying. And sometimes I'm ready to cry. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes I just want to let it out, and reading a good book in the process that makes me cry, great way to cry. I just was like struggling. After reading this, I kind of realized that reading things that are primarily like a Greek retelling are not my jam. And yeah, no, I just was like, it was a struggle to get through. I was gonna DNF it. Then I got the audio because I was like, maybe this will be better. No, I mean, I would fall asleep and then have to go back and start it over. Like, it to me, I mean, she has great writing. I'll say that. It makes me think of Robin Hobb, but like, her writing was beautiful, but the story itself, or maybe just the way she tells the story, it read like a well-written textbook, but still a textbook at the end of the day. So I just was like, oh yeah, that's a damn shame. Oh no. Like, it took me, I mean, I had to be at least a month to get through. And I finally finished. I was like, my God, I have suffered. I found no sadness. I found no emotion. I had no connection. To me, it was just like, you're reading this for your history class. And I'm like, well, I finished it. That's it. Like, it just, and it's not even, sometimes I'm like, maybe it was my mood. Maybe I'll go back. No. And so I bought Circe before I had read that. And then I gave that one away too, because I was like, no. No. So I don't think Madeline Miller is for moi, or Greek retellings in general. Like, if there's Greek elements to a story, like Lovely War was a romance, a historical romance, but it had like Greek elements to it, loved it. But like primarily a Greek retelling, I just have not had great luck with those. And the Song of Achilles, I mean, put me to sleep. That's all I can say. There were no tears. If there were tears, it's because when I yawn, my eyes water. That's it. But I have been rambling for long enough. This is now at 38 minutes about books, and I still have more on the list. But I'll just save it because I can make another one next year, because I'm sure there will be more books that I remember that I either didn't have on my Goodreads or that I read to make another video. So that was all. Those are a lot of books that I have varying opinions about, that vary from the popular opinion. So let me know down below your feelings on any of these books. Maybe you agree with me, maybe you are in the majority of people who love these books, or tell me a book that everybody loves that you can't stand. But before I go, I want to give a thank you to my patrons. If you want to join my Patreon, it is listed down below. But big shout out to Bebe's besties: Kate, Talisha, Terry, Emily, Jessie, Janine, Sarah, Pepper, Shannon, Kirsten, Elizabetta, Amber, Heidi, Maria, and Serena. And the Nigel Lavandria stans: Ava, Claire, Kimberly, Carrie, Tyrell, Stephanie, Dimery, Rainey, and Celine. And of course, big shout outs to Bebe's admirers and friends of Bebe. Thank you all so much for supporting me and my channel. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope I gave you a laugh today. But give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, but always check out my description. I always have things linked there, ways to support my channel, my links to my social media, so on and so forth. I would say I would link all these books. I mean, maybe, if I remember, I can link them all. But I think that's it for me, and I think that's it, but I'll see you in my next one. Bye!